Breakups can be hard, painful, messy, and full of sleepless nights. You lie awake wondering where they are, what they're doing, and who they're with. The anxiety, the panic, the feeling of being trapped, it can twist people into something unrecognizable. Sometimes heartbreak pushes someone so far they become something else entirely, something out of your worst nightmare. Chloe and I had been together since freshman year. We grew up in the same small town, and all of our friends at school thought we'd be together forever. Chloe had blonde hair and brilliant blue eyes. She was amazing, smart, mature, and rational. Those things contributed to my overwhelming love for her. I trusted her with everything, and genuinely sought her advice when I needed it. She was wise, calm, and secure. Just one of those people. Anyway, that's how things were for the first 3 years of our relationship, but that changed quickly and suddenly. She started to question what I was doing when I was alone, but not at reasonable times. For example, she'd text me as soon as I walked in the front door to my house after school, just asking me, "What are you doing?" Now, this was out of the ordinary, but she is my girlfriend. I figured maybe she was going through something she didn't want to tell me about yet, and just needed me to be more attentive. But quickly those texts became more frequent, more intense. It got to the point where if I didn't answer within 60 seconds, she'd lose it. She'd spam call me until I answered. Somehow she had convinced herself I was cheating, even though I'd never do that, and gave her no reason to believe I would. But at this point, the strangest thing was when I'd see her in person. She acted like nothing happened. She'd brush it off, apologize, and make up some excuse. But despite how many times she apologized, she just became more and more erratic. Now the calls from her never stopped. They were constant. It didn't matter if I was sleeping, eating dinner with my family, or in the middle of a football game. She'd leave voicemails, screaming incoherently, and with such anger it sounded like she was going to rip her vocal cords. Anyway, after 8 months of this, it was clear. She wasn't going to get better, and I wasn't capable of helping her any more than I had. I broke up with her outside of school one morning before the bell rang. She was devastated. Tears immediately welled in her eyes. Her lips trembled, and her entire body vibrated. I felt terrible seeing her like that. My instincts told me to help her, but my mind knew it was for the best. She pleaded, begged, promised to change, but I didn't give in. This was the most difficult thing I had done in my life at that point. I mean, Chloe had become part of my family. I loved her. My parents loved her. I couldn't understand how someone I knew so well could change so fast. Someone I thought I'd have a family with someday. She'd call and text, but I never replied. According to the internet, no contact was the best way. That Friday, she stormed up to me in the hall. She was put together on the outside, but it was easy to see. Looking into her eyes, she was far from okay. Again, she cried, begged, and desperately pleaded for another chance. But I said no. And then, only a few days later, everything stopped. No calls, no texts, no voicemails. She even stopped going to school. Eventually, people got worried. I sent her a text to make sure she was alright, but the message didn't even deliver. Eventually, we found out that she had disappeared from home. Her parents were aware of our breakup and said that she ran away. Everyone was devastated, but we figured she'd turn up sooner or later. Anyway, months passed, but Chloe never turned up. The police tried pinging her cell phone, but it was either dead or turned off. I had started seeing a therapist because of the guilt. It actually helped. My life started to come back together, slowly, one step at a time. But that's when things started to change from sad to something else. One morning I walked into school. My buddy Liam sped toward me and looked at me with anticipation. He asked if I had seen Chloe. Confused, I asked him what he meant. He said that he swore he saw her standing alone on the football field way earlier that morning, around 6 a.m. He gets to school early for some student council thing, I don't know. He said he assumed she returned home and was coming to see me. What I felt in that moment was strange. I felt relieved that she was okay, but also anxious. I wondered what she was going to say. I felt nervous to learn where she had been. But the day dragged on and I didn't see her. Neither did anyone else I talked to. I brushed it off. Maybe Liam was mistaken. He did say that she was far away, so he easily could have mistaken her for someone else. Anyway, later that night I laid awake in bed thinking about Chloe, wondering if Liam was right, if he really did see her, or if the whole situation was just getting to everyone's head. I'm not sure what made me think of it, but I opened my last text with her. Then, at the bottom of the screen, I noticed something that made my heart stop. Just under my last message, the one I sent to check in that wasn't delivered, suddenly was. Not only was it delivered, she had read it. Head spinning, I sat up in bed, wondering if I should send another message, wondering if I should reach out to her mom, or the police. But before I could do any of that, I noticed a light tapping on the window above my bed. Heart pounding, I began to pull back the curtains as the tapping sound stopped. When I looked out, I couldn't see much, but a large tree branch waved slowly in the wind, just inches from the glass. Maybe the wind was just particularly strong that night. Maybe the branch had been gradually growing and it was just finally starting to make contact with the window. That's what I told myself anyway. I was completely distracted at school the next day, thinking about the text and that tapping sound. I had been making so much progress, and now I felt like I was going in reverse, becoming anxious over nothing. When I got home that night, I went up to my room to finish writing an essay I was working on for my English class. But only a few moments after sitting down, I sensed something familiar. I couldn't put my finger on it right away, but then it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was the smell of perfume. Chloe's perfume. It was unmistakable. Hell, I'd smelled it every day for years. Just the faint scent brought back a flood of emotions and memories. But the thing is, the smell of her perfume was mixed with something rancid. A sweet, sour smell. I stood up and walked around my room, trying to sniff out the source, but I couldn't nail it down. It was as if it had materialized from thin air. At that point, I started to seriously consider the possibility that I was losing my mind. I mean, the text was one thing, and Liam saying he saw her at school, all causes for concern. But now I was smelling her perfume in my room. I forced it all out of my mind and went to sleep. But the next night, things escalated even further. Again, I was in my room, this time on my bed watching something on Netflix when I noticed that smell. I tried to ignore it, but I was sure it was real. I paused the show and looked around the room, racking my brain. But that's when I heard it again. The tapping noise from the night before. I put my ear close to the window before opening the blinds. That's when I realized the sound wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from above the window. I looked up at the air duct vent above my bed and slowly got closer. The tapping noise got clearer and clearer the closer I got. My stomach twisted because not only was the noise getting clearer, that smell was getting stronger. I winced at the thought that ran through my mind. Chloe? She couldn't be in the vents, in the ductwork. I was losing my mind, right? I walked down into the basement where the ductwork was exposed from the unfinished ceiling. I looked at its width and then imagined Chloe. Honestly, it seemed possible she could fit. She was tiny. But how would she even get inside? And if somehow she did, surely I'd hear more than just a light tapping. I slept on the couch that night, trying to calm down, to think rationally. I didn't want to tell anyone what I heard, or what I thought was going on, because even I thought I was losing it. But what happened next was truly terrifying. I got off the bus from school the next day and noticed lights. There were 2 police cars and an ambulance parked in front of my house. My parents were out speaking to an officer as I approached them. "What's going on?" I asked. The cop looked at me. "Hey Dillon, mind coming with me so we can talk over there?" And then he pointed to his patrol car across the street. I nodded and followed behind him. He opened the passenger side door and I climbed in, my hands already sweating. He slid into the driver's seat but didn't start the engine. For a moment he just sat there, not saying anything, just staring down at some notes in his lap. Then he looked at me and casually started asking me about Chloe, about our relationship. He asked me if I had any contact with her since she disappeared. Obviously, I was honest. I had nothing to hide. I looked up at him, lump in my throat, and said, "Can you just tell me what happened?" He shot me an understanding look, almost sympathetic, as if he knew what he was about to tell me was going to be unsettling. He said, "A few days ago, Chloe reached out to her mom. The text she sent wasn't exactly coherent, but it was enough to cause concern." I looked at him, eyes wide. "And what did the text say?" He shifted, as if he wasn't sure how to tell me. "Most of the text was about you," he said. "It wasn't very detailed, but it signaled that she wasn't happy with the way your relationship ended, and that she had plans to fix it. There were some other details in the text that make us think she might be a danger to you. It's very clear she's dealing with some demons," he said. I looked at the officer, trying to process what he just told me. "Okay," I said. "So what's with all the cars and the ambulance?" "We were able to get a signal from her cell phone when she turned it on to text her mom. We traced it to the woods behind your house." My heart pounded with adrenaline. The cop sighed and continued talking. "When we arrived at the location, we found a shelter. It looks like she's been living in the woods behind your house for months now." The world felt like it was closing in around me, but still, I could tell this cop was holding back on some details. "And what else?" I asked. Again, he hesitated. "We found some of her drawings there. She's been drawing the back of your house, from the woods. We think she's been watching you." He paused for a second. "And it looks like she's been surviving by catching squirrels and other rodents. We're doing our best to find her, so we can take her somewhere to get help. She's turned her phone off, but please let us know right away if she contacts you." The next hour or so was a blur. I felt completely numb. I laid in bed, trying to process what I had just learned. I felt watched, stalked. I looked out my window and wondered if she was looking back, hidden in the night, just behind the tree line. Somehow I must have fallen asleep after that, because I woke up to that same smell. The smell of her perfume. Only this time, the sour, bitter smell was stronger. I laid petrified in complete darkness until a phone notification. The screen lit up the darkness, casting a glow across my ceiling. My heart sank as I reached for it. A notification from Chloe. I stared at the screen, every muscle in my body tensing up. There was no text, just a photo. My thumb hovered above it for a second. I didn't want to open it. I already knew it would be bad. I just didn't know how bad. But I tapped it. The image expanded slowly, loading line by line. At first, it was almost too dark to make anything out. I squinted, bringing my phone closer to my face. It was dark, blurry, and grainy. The image had been taken in near total darkness, but something about it felt familiar. My pulse kicked up as I adjusted the brightness on my phone. There, on the bottom edge of the photo, I saw the corner of a pillow. My pillow. Then it hit me. The angle. The slats. It was a picture of me, asleep in my bed, taken from above me, through the vent above my bed. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked up to the vent in real time. Thin strands of hair, long, stringy, matted, hung through the slats of the vent, and just behind it, 2 gleaming eyes. I stared, unblinking, breath caught in my throat. Chloe, but not Chloe. Her skin was pale, splotchy. Her once white teeth were now dark brown, cracked and rotten. Every one of them. That's where that smell was coming from. She didn't move an inch, just stared, eyes locked on mine. She was so still, almost frozen. For a second I wondered if she was even alive. The rotten smell mixed with perfume flooded my nostrils as a blanket of adrenaline coursed over my body. I shot out of bed quick, glancing back. Her hair was still hanging through the slats. She hadn't even reacted. I bolted out the front door and dialed 911. Only minutes later, the same officer I met earlier in the day arrived, almost like he intentionally wasn't too far away. I pointed to the house. She's in the vents. The officer looked shocked. Then another unit arrived and they went inside together. After a long 30 minutes of standing on the street, they walked out with her. She had her head down. Long, dirty hair covered her face. Her clothes tattered and full of dirt. This sounds horrible to say, but she looked terrifying. And just before she was fully sat in the back of the police car, her head shot up and she locked eyes with me. Then she flashed me an eerie, rotten smile. The original officer walked over to me and just said, "Okay, we'll take her to where she needs to be. If the hospital needs anything from you, they might call. Otherwise, you can contact them for any info, if you want it." And that was it. News spread around school quickly. Everyone was talking about it. I'm not sure where she is, if she has a phone or not. But I still think of the night where I wake up and hear that familiar ding. One new message from Chloe. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like on this video and then subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Also, let me know if you've had a crazy experience with an ex in the past, or if maybe you've been the crazy ex. Alright, cheers.